Back and bigger than ever. It's the unofficial 40 from Soonerscoop.com. Now, here's the entire Sooner Scoop crew. Carrie, Josh, Eddie, and
George.
All right, welcome back. It is the unofficial 40 podcast right here on Soonerscoop.com, where the boys are ready to play, including one who has no power. Josh McCuistion joins us for the first time, really for the first time. We have not had a chance to talk to you since the Hurricane Beryl. Was that what it was?
Beryl
or something.
Beryl?
Yeah.
I wonder how they would identify.
I've never met a woman named Beryl. I don't know where that name came from.
So Hurricane Beryl has come through, knocked out your power, even though you're not technically in Houston.
I bet pronouns would be they for Beryl. It'd be an it for sure. It's a bitch. I know that.
Yes, it's whatever it is, you don't want to come across it because Josh McCuistion still without power in his area of Houston, and he joins us now. And I guess, Josh, the first question we all have is why the hell does anyone live in Houston, and why are you still?
It's a great question. It's a great question. You guys know I don't want to be here. That's the worst part. Is that everybody's like, go get out of there. Yeah, I hate it too. I'm with you. I hate it more than you do. And especially now. It's been crazy, guys. This is, people remember I was here for Harvey. I went through all that and all that rain, and that presented very different challenges. But guys, I'm not kidding. On Monday night, if you were driving around one of the few fast food places that had power, there were 60 cars in line, probably. It's like nothing I've ever seen. And it really is. It's like Lord of the Flies with supplies, because I went to the grocery store this morning. I could only buy a bag of ice. I couldn't buy multiples. And I get it. They're trying to make sure everybody gets what they need, but it's just crazy. And now you're starting to see gas problems, people not having gas. And, that's when it really gets sketchy. But we've got some hope that maybe by the end of the day, the McCuistion household will have power again.
That's great, Josh. But what the hell happened with Lamont Rogers?
People have been waiting for that information. They don't care about your power.
That's the thing. People will ask me, I'm like, I know this is just lead up to something. Somebody will send me a message like, hey man, I hope you're doing good. So anyway, what are you thinking about Michael Fasusi? People can't help it. It's all right.
Yeah, I knew when I got hotboxed at one of my good friends' wedding or funerals about recruiting by about 3 different guys that this was a different profession.
Yeah, we've told the story about me getting cornered at my best friend's wedding by a Scoop member that is well known, and really had to try to duck and dodge so I could actually hang out with my buddies while I was in Norman.
Yeah, there's a guy, I think it's just Norman Music Company. I know he knows you are related to Tiffany somehow or something. But I've gone in there and bought guitars, and he's asked me, he hotboxed me about you, just wanting to ask me about. And I guess I think you've been even hotboxed by him at a wedding before.
I don't remember. Maybe that does sound kind of familiar. The thing that is funny to me is, this has only happened to me. I know Eddie's fame. I get this has been happening to him for years. The YouTube thing, I get more and more now where my friends, close personal friends, will message me and they're like, this person doesn't believe we know you. And you got to send us something like proof of life kind of deal. And I'm like, yeah, I know. I'm the same dumbass you've known forever. Yeah, I'm not anything. Again, it's just weird to me that anyone would ever care that my friends know me. I'm an idiot.
All right, so let's just talk about everything that's happened while we got you.
No, seriously, what happened to Lamont Rogers?
Yeah, no, that's fine and good, but seriously, what's been going on in recruiting?
Yeah, now I will fully admit there's probably going to be people like, this is not 100% accurate. I won't pretend that recruiting calls have been my entire focus of the last 48 hours. But in talking to people, the Lamont Rogers situation, I think it really just came down to, guys, we talked about it. 3 months ago, we weren't really talking about Lamont Rogers in Oklahoma that much. Like, it was just kind of OU's in, they're kind of seeing where they are. But the effort really felt like it was on Michael Fasusi, Andrew Babalola, and Ty Haywood. Missouri never wavered. As soon as they knew they had a real chance at Lamont Rogers, they put a lot of focus into him, and he really built a great relationship with Brandon Jones. I know everyone will say, oh, it's NIL and blah, blah, blah. Everything I've heard, he had bigger offers than Missouri, and I think Oklahoma was absolutely competitive with Missouri in their NIL stuff. So I think that's, sour grapes, really. Or maybe people just assuming things that were true still are true. Everything I've heard is Oklahoma's been really good with their NIL stuff this year. I feel like it's been more organized, more streamlined. Everyone kind of knew what the numbers were long before the decision. There wasn't the big scramble that we've seen at times in years past. So again, I just think OU got beat here. Like, and I think it was largely about relationship. Now, if OU can go get Michael Fasusi, doesn't matter. Who cares? You get Fasusi or Babalola, who you have a chance at both still. If you can get one of those guys, sure, you'd love to have Lamont Rogers, but like we've said all along, get one of these guys to go with Ryan Foje, and it's a really, really good class.
Josh, you've said it before that you felt confident that they were going to get at least one. Do you still have that same confidence?
Dun dun dun.
George is recruiting is like me for the team. Like, he's the black cloud.
Well,
he's just always gonna be.
Until they land one of these guys, it's kind of like the defensive lineman, and we talked about this last week. It's until they landed David Stone, I wasn't going to believe it. And I take the same approach with these offensive tackles. It's like, until they get one of these guys, I just won't believe it.
I think that's totally fair, George. And it's one of those things where what I'm hearing, yes, I think they're going to get one of these guys. What I've seen, no, I don't think they're going to get one of these guys. So, I'm really torn about it because, again, until about a week ago, it was about last Wednesday when it started to feel like, wait, maybe OU's not going to get Lamont Rogers. Like, that was the first time I really considered that, really since his official visit in mid-June. Like, I just thought OU was in great shape there. With Fasusi, I continue to hear from Texas people, they think Oklahoma leads. They think they are chasing Oklahoma at this point, which is a total role reversal. But at the same time, in the last week, Texas has lost to Corian Moore. They've lost Riley Pettijohn. They've lost some big-time guys. They need a win. And I can just about guarantee you their big money NIL guys are going to throw the bank at Michael Fasusi. Like, that Texas, their week last week has made Michael Fasusi a lot of money. We'll have to see. Again, I don't think Mike has ever hid from the idea that he wants a good NIL deal. Like, I think he's been very upfront about that. I don't fault him for it. He knows his value. He knows the programs that are chasing him. But I think this is going to come down to Oklahoma and Texas. If he picked right now, I think it would be Oklahoma. But I do think we're going to see some hoops, and it's going to get crazy because of, like I said, all that's going to go on. OU's going to have a chance to kind of say, hey, do you want to match this number? Can we get close enough to that number to make up the difference, to say, I still like to play for Bill Bedenbaugh. I still prefer Oklahoma. And that number's good enough to make this okay. That to me is the question, because I've got a feeling Texas is not going to get beaten on the number.
But like you've said, when it comes down to it, this doesn't usually, from what we're finding out, come down to just the highest bidder. Like, it comes down to relationships, just like you talked about with Lamont Rogers. Like, and that's become the crux of the fan now. Like, everybody, they just overpay. Like you said it earlier, like, fans are just like, oh, well, they overpaid for him. Like, if you lose a guy, it's either they overpaid for him or our team didn't have enough money. When it's not, we've said this so many times, but there's so many other things. You're still recruiting guys. I mean, now you have to be in the ballpark of what Texas is if they want to jump up there, but I don't think it's a dollar for dollar thing with any recruit. Maybe there are a select few, but my take is that it's not just a dollar for dollar deal.
No, I don't think so at all. I mean, now you're right. There are situations where you're just like, whoever can throw the biggest number the morning of National Signing Day, that's who's going to get that guy. Like that just is what it is. But I would say that's maybe 10% of the really elite guys. Like it's not that common. Now, you do have to be competitive. You have to be in the ballpark. And I think that's something that we're seeing OU really kind of around the time of the David Stone situation, OU kind of accepting that. Like, we're not going to win, like I know relational and not transactional, all that stuff. But these kids are trying to take care of their families in a lot of cases. Like, there really is. It's generational money in some ways. Like, I mean, these are, I can put my little brother through college. I can help my, whatever it may be. There's a million answers as to why they care about the money. But I do think, and Lamont Rogers is somebody I heard multiple people around him kind of tell me this, at a certain point, the money is just so astronomical, it doesn't matter. Like, I mean, like, is that what I'm going to choose on? Is, whether it's 700 or 800, does that really matter? I don't think so to most of these guys, because most of these guys are thinking, I'm going to 3 years to Oklahoma or Texas or wherever it is, and I'm going pro. Like, and then I'm going to make real money. And so I think that changed it. And I think Oklahoma is learning how to recruit to that. But I do think it's a process. And again, they've just got to get one of these guys, and they've got to figure out a way to make it get done. And what I think is interesting is I feel like they're kind of lurking in the shadows with Andrew Babalola. All the talk is on Fasusi and Babalola. They just kind of get to hang around. Everybody's talking about Stanford. We know you can do more than Stanford in the NIL game. Kind of the reverse of what we're talking about here, where we're saying, well, Oklahoma doesn't have to match Texas. Stanford is going to have to get somewhere to get close to Oklahoma, what they'll be willing to do for Babalola. If they can do that, okay, maybe. But if they can't, maybe OU wins with NIL in that particular situation. Situation.
With all that said, Michael Fasusi has tweeted out something about big news on Friday. That's not necessarily a commitment by any means. That's going to be some type of top 5, top 10, something like that.
My guess is that's the announcement of an announcement date.
Sure.
And again, I haven't talked to Mike yet. All of this going on, we just haven't had a chance to sit down. But just knowing him and knowing kind of what I understood of his timeline, I'm going to guess he's going to say, and next Friday I announce, or, and it's down to, XYZ, and Hayes Fawcett's got a graphic for him, of 3 schools or whatever it may be. I do not think on Friday he's going to announce, but I've got a couple calls in and we'll see. But the people I've talked to, I would have heard from somebody that said, hey, yeah, this is coming down the pipe. So I think this is Mike, building the suspense, knowing that, it's about his time, with Lamont Rogers having made his choice, Ty Haywood really not looking at schools that Mike's involved with. So I think that, basically it's kind of like we talked about with 2026 quarterbacks a couple weeks ago. The dominoes are just starting to fall, and Michael's about ready to, kind of make his call.
With all that said, obviously the bad news out there on Saturday, I guess, afternoon was the Lamont Rogers decision, but Oklahoma did get continued good news in the secondary with the commitment of Marion Robinson.
I hope it came across in my commitment breakdown how much I like Marion Robinson. Like, this is people will look at him. I think, on 3's got him in the 300s or something like that. I like Cody Belair. I think Charles Power is really good. I think that's a crazy ranking. Like, I think he is a top 150, at least top 200 guy in the country. Really rangy, athletic safety. Huge win for Oklahoma, because that's a guy that, they offered almost 18 months ago. I mean, this isn't some guy they kind of got in on late and made a late decision on. They put a lot of focus and a lot of energy into Marion Robinson. And I know, all the talk right now is, oh, look how hot Oregon is on the trail. Guys, the one real loss Oregon's taken in the last few weeks is a Marion Robinson. And Brandon Hall, again, beats them for a big-time safety that I know they wanted. So, again, we've talked a lot about how well Emmett Jones is doing and all those kind of things. Brandon Hall nationally just does not get his due. And I know I pivot to this almost every time, but I just think he is outstanding, both as a developer. We've seen how much Billy Bowman has grown over the last 2 years. Robert Spears-Jennings looks like an NFL guy. I mean, guys, this is a safety room where we all acknowledge that Peyton Bowen's an NFL player.
Sure.
and they're not sure they can get him on the field. Like, it's just unbelievable how they're stacking that room right now.
All right, so outside of that, Josh, I know you're going to be getting back to it when you get the power, but what else is there to look forward to coming up on the cast? I know is O'Neal? He's coming back like a week after this next weekend. Is that when they're having that?
Yeah,
junior or whatever.
The Sooners Under the Stars thing is the 25th. I had it in my head it was the 24th, but I'm almost certain it's the 25th now. He'll be there. Daquan Prevo, a big wide receiver from Texarkana, will be there. I've got like 5 or 6 guys confirmed. Ryder Mix, Jonathan Hatton amongst the 2026 commitments. They'll be there. I looked back at last year's list, and I want to say of the roughly 22 or 23 guys, like 5 are OU commitments right now. So, I mean, this is a meaningful weekend. You're going to see some guys come out of this weekend that will probably end up as part of OU's 2026 class. In 2025, Kerry, like you said, kind of wrap up what we're looking at. I think with Oklahoma, you've got Christian Jones, the linebacker from Nebraska. I think Oklahoma's in really good shape there. I'd like to have a few more conversations, but I know there have been some crystal balls and some predictions and that kind of stuff. From what I'm hearing, that sounds like that's on the right track to me. Like, I think Oklahoma's in really good shape there. He wants to wait a little bit and make his decision. It kind of has a Grant Bricks feel to it in that way. So that's kind of my hesitation. I was like, I've seen this before where Nebraska has a regional advantage and kind of manages to get a guy to stretch it out a little longer than maybe OU wants. So we'll see how that goes. Floyd Buchard, the big defensive tackle, he's going to announce 10 days from now. Talking to some people, I think Oklahoma's in a pretty good spot there. Miami has some, I think they have a chance to get him, but I kind of keep hearing, they may play a numbers game. They may have their eyes on a different defensive tackle or two. Alabama, I know that was a big offer for him, but I kind of wonder if it's the same deal where maybe he's not their number one priority. Again, and the Cade Petchak kid from North Dakota, we're still waiting for that to come down at some point. I still think Oklahoma's in a good spot. And with him, maybe he's committed. Maybe he's been committed for a week and just no one knows. Like, he doesn't talk to anybody. So it's entirely possible that there will be no Twitter graphic or any way to tip anybody in the world off.
Kind of like that. It's unusual these days. Gotta love that.
As a recruiting reporter, I don't love it as much as you may do, Eddie. But I hear what you're saying.
All right. Well, what is the get back on track for the McCuistion family right now?
Yeah, the hope is, like I said, there are reports on all the neighborhood apps, which I would say in a disaster scenario, and disaster is strong. I mean, I'm sitting here in an air-conditioned room. I'm okay, people. There's no need for what little concern you might give. But the neighborhood apps are actually fairly interesting because you can kind of, whether you've left the neighborhood, somebody's still in there and they're talking about what's going on. The primary issue that we've been told is preventing our neighborhood from having power is apparently being worked on. There are work crews out there now trying to fix it. Maybe by the end of the day, we're going to have power. If that's so, then hey, at that point, really all that we've lost is my truck, and I can rent a car. That we're going to be okay on that front. The girls are at camp all day. They're at an outdoor camp where the camp also is without power. So they go to camp. They're running around outside all day. They can't even come in and cool off. And then when they come home, it's a wasteland of air conditioning. So the girls are exhausted every day when they come home at this point.
Now, explain what happened with the truck again.
So we were coming out to where I am now. We were trying to help my in-laws. They had planned a trip that literally flew out like Sunday afternoon. Like, they flew out one of the last planes really to get out of Houston before all this hit. And they thought about staying, but we had come out the day before and we kind of put everything away and, really did all we could to avoid any real problems. But when we came out the other day, I was almost to their house and all of a sudden my brakes weren't working. Weren't working, but I had to put everything I could into it just to stop the truck. And then my power steering goes out. And then all of a sudden I'm getting alerts for high temperature, like my coolant isn't working. It was just a whole series of events. Like, it's probably one thing that triggered a bunch of alerts. And I am super not a car guy, so I won't even try to pretend I know what happened. But I'm guessing one thing went wrong and it led to a series of problems. And then so we were like, well, maybe we can limp this back with city streets and we'll stop once the engine gets hot, let it cool. And then it was like, this is undrivable. It got crazy. So had to call and have it towed and taking it up. It's been a thing, but luckily found another car to drive around for a few days until we can figure out how long this is going to take with the truck to be addressed. But yeah, it was, Monday was a wild, wild day.
God. Need to get to the weekend.
Yeah.
With my brakes on the fritz, we almost drove into a power line. Oh. I didn't see, it was hanging in the middle of the road, and I just didn't see it because I was so busy trying to contend with the steering wheel that we were probably 5 feet from it, and I'm just slamming on those brakes that are, like I said, are just not working correctly. And that was again, it was a little nip and tuck there for a little while.
That sounds truly awful. Anyway, well, we hope that you get the power back soon. Join the world back with us, or join us back in the world. You can come back and hear Mike Gundy say awkward things at Big 12 Media Days when you finally get power.
I read a teaser. I haven't read it yet, but I'm dying to see what he said because I kind of love hating that guy. That's kind of where I'm at with Mike Gundy at this point.
I think it's done on purpose. I think he knows what he's doing, and he's just trolling people because he can. He can do whatever he wants now.
Yeah, he's got license, man. He can do whatever he wants to. I mean, he's clearly making the decisions for that football program at this point. So why would he stop now?
All right, we'll let you get to whatever it is that you can do right now without any power or basic, human washing faculties. I guess you can't even take a shower without power, can you? Or can you?
He has.
Yeah. Luckily, we've got gas and we've got water, so okay. We're okay. I'm not totally rank as you talk to me. Like, you can't see the green coming off my skin, so we're all right there.
All right, man. Well, sorry about everything you guys have gone through. Feel bad for the girls. Family, it's just not a good situation. But get the hell out of Houston, man. You can come back to Oklahoma, man. Just come back.
Hey, I don't know. I keep hearing some leaders in education in Oklahoma terrifying me with the things they say almost daily. So, that's the scary point for me.
Yeah, you might be better off in Houston.
Yeah. Maybe somewhere in the middle.
Dallas.
But all right, guys. Hey, I appreciate it. This is the most normal thing I've done this week, so that works.
All right, appreciate it, Josh.
Later, fellas.
See ya.
All right, that is Josh McCuistion, and we are back here with Eddie, George, myself, and we're waiting for SEC Media Days. I almost did it again. It was really, I don't know how you guys felt, but for me it was odd seeing the Big 12 Media Days without OU and Texas. So it was a finality kind of a thing. Maybe it was some closure.
I was kind of glad that we weren't there. I mean, I don't really necessarily want to go to Vegas, and I certainly don't want to go to Vegas when it's 125 outside. So I'm not missing it too much. I think that there is going to be a little bit of normality that comes with next week at SEC Media Day. But other than that, I thought Mike Gundy was great yesterday. He's a king.
I didn't feel weird at all. I just don't think this is gonna piss some people off. I just think that I'm excited for SEC Media Days because it just feels a little bit more relevant. Like, you're talking to some teams, hearing from some teams that think they can win the national championship.
Yeah, that was what was weird. I mean,
and that can actually win the national championship.
I think it was Dylan Buckingham that I saw the photo. He got in there early. He took a photo of all the helmets. Like, that was, to me, just going down that list of helmets, I was like, Wow, there's not a real blue blood in this conference anymore.
There's not, but I do think it's a very interesting and fun conference.
No, it is. But
Eddie, do you think there's a team in that conference that can win the national title?
Yeah. I mean, I think that there's... I think a lot of doors have opened with the 12-team playoff. I'd say that. Now, do I think that a team from the Big 12 is going to win the national championship? No, probably not. But I think that there are some teams that... And we've talked about it, and I think on the flip side of this, that at the end of the year, there's some teams that, if they get in, they could make some noise. I think that there's a clear difference in separation of talent, though, when it comes down to it.
Are you guys going to have a hard time, like, not following the Big 12?
No, I think I'll still. I enjoy watching
I'll watch it
that
just
conference.
the same.
Yeah, I'll watch. I mean, I don't know if I'll watch it just the same, because I'll be watching more SEC games just to like keep an eye on those games.
Yeah, you're not watching Baylor versus Colorado,
right?
Like Tennessee, is
not
playing.
as much, but like it'll be on.
Might have to. Might be invested in one of those games.
Well, yeah,
yeah, that's true.
But I, to a certain extent, I mean, we don't watch a whole lot of games because we're at the game.
Yeah, that's
during the day. But like any of the games that are on when we're back here, I think it's gonna, for the most part, be the same slate to a certain extent. I mean, we always have the SEC game on.
I'm curious about the Big 12 because you could convince me in that league, whereas other leagues, you probably have like 2 teams that you think, okay, they could win it, maybe 3 that win that conference. The Big 12, you could seriously convince me there's like 6 teams that could win that conference.
I think it's pretty clear, to me at least, that it's Utah, Kansas State, and OSU. And then you kind of separate everybody down another notch.
But there's always
a big difference.
A surprise team.
There's a big difference, though, between 6 teams that can win the league and 6 teams that could win the national championship, which in the SEC you almost have that. I wouldn't say you have 6, but Georgia, Alabama,
Texas,
Ole Miss, Missouri. I mean, would we no doubt, no brainer say if Ole Miss and or Missouri were in the Big 12 this year, no doubt about it, they're winning the conference?
They're the favorite.
They're the favorite,
I think.
Well, you're using 2 teams that are kind of a
I think Kansas State's going to win the Big 12. That's my pick. I think K-State's going to win it.
I'd buy that.
I mean, there's lots of teams that can win. I mean, Utah, OSU, Kansas State, Kansas, Arizona.
Yeah, well, if Jed Fish was back at Arizona and there wasn't any turnover, I would say that Arizona's automatically back in there. And they got a bunch of guys that are coming back. At the same time, I just don't know about the Brennan guy. I know he did a good job at San Jose State. It's just a different level of play. And especially coming into the Big 12 from the Pac-12.
I think Baylor's a player, too, just because they've replaced
don't know what
so much.
Baylor is.
Yeah, I don't either, but I think they're a dark horse.
Baylor and Tech are those 2 teams that's like, okay, what are you really going to be this year?
Yeah, I just think Baylor is they're not too far removed from being a really good team.
I don't know. They were god-awful.
And if they get a good
year.
quarterback,
people were trying to fire Dave Aranda at the end of the year.
Yeah. Well, he had to get rid of an offensive coordinator who I think is a pretty good offensive coordinator.
Yeah, he did the Jeff Grimes. They did the proactive, we're making moves at coordinator because we're not going to fire the head coach.
Right.
How many Big 12 teams make the playoff?
1.
Yeah, 1.
How many SEC teams make the playoff?
4.
Or 5.
I had 5 when I did my
You could talk
prediction.
me into 5. It just depends.
Yeah.
The interesting thing is going to be if a Utah or a Kansas State or an Oklahoma State, whoever, if they roll through the conference and all of a sudden they're that 11-1 team and were to get beat by that, get upset in the Big 12 championship, now you're talking, could you get 2 teams in?
Yeah.
I could see that.
You know what we talked about this morning is like how much of a shoe-in Notre Dame is this year with their schedule.
I heard Curtis going through that. I didn't realize they had 8 straight home games.
8 straight home games.
That's insane. How is that possible?
Because they're an independent.
That is insanity.
But they are literally. I think their toughest game is USC late in the year. They play Texas A&M early.
I think A&M's going to be good.
They should be. I mean, why aren't they? That's the biggest question in college football. Like, how are they that bad? Because they've signed people left and right. Yeah, if Elko's worth anything, A&M will be a factor in the SEC. You know, one of the things about SEC Media Days, Eddie, is you have a lot of new faces that you have to identify, and the closer you can get to guys and see them and talk to them and figure out exactly who they are, I think I'm just left. My biggest question is, could Texas be the team that just falls off a cliff this year?
I think you could make a case for Texas because, I think Texas is going to be good. I just don't know how good. But they did lose a lot of guys. The
problem with Texas is it's not so much the makeup of the team or the talent on the team, but they get in a situation where they go in the SEC, and I think we're seeing it. I mean, we see it on the message boards. Like, we talk to SEC people, and I'll say this, like, we're doing this series right now that we're going to run, talking to the other teams that OU is going to play this year, talking to people that cover them. And so we've done like 4 or 5 of those already. And, well, I guess it wouldn't be 4 or 5, like 3. But the expectations that people have in the SEC for what the record could be at the end of the year is so vastly different than anything that anyone in the Big 12 has as an expectation. So if Texas fans get in there and they're like, oh, we lost 2 games, we're like 2-2, and Quinn Ewers has thrown some picks, they're going to be calling for Arch Manning. So you could get into a situation at Texas that not a lot of teams are going to deal with when you have a quarterback controversy.
By the way, technically, Notre Dame, they do technically have 8 consecutive home games, but 2 of those, one, they're not
neutral,
all in South Bend. Notre Dame, Georgia Tech in Atlanta at Mercedes-Benz, and then Notre Dame Navy is in Baltimore or some shit. I was just like, East Rutherford. They're at MetLife.
I mean, we're going to know what Texas is made of week 2.
Going to Michigan?
At Michigan. Mm-hmm. And I know there's a lot of people down on Michigan, but, I mean, that's going to be a tough environment.
Yeah, they're going to still be good.
Yeah, I mean, I believe in Sherrone Moore. Like, I think he's going to be a good head coach. But then they don't really get another test till OU.
Sure.
UTSA.
Well, when do they play Georgia?
The week after OU.
Oh, it's the week after. Okay.
Yeah.
They get a bye though, right?
They get OU and Texas both have a bye before OU Texas, and then Texas goes Georgia at home, at Vanderbilt, Florida at home, at Arkansas, Kentucky at home, at Texas A&M, and that's where it's like after OU Georgia, they should run the table until A&M, and I guess Kentucky could maybe be a tough game. I think Florida's going to stink. Arkansas is going to stink. And then you have at A&M to finish the year. If they beat Michigan and then they beat OU, there's a good chance that they go like 11-1.
There's one thing that I've learned, just talking to so many SEC people and people that cover SEC teams is I didn't realize this going in that Billy Napier was this universally hated and panned and just thought to be a complete moron.
Yeah.
I knew it was bad. I knew it was bad, but I didn't know that
when he was hired, it was the same year Brent was hired, and he was championed as like the best hire of the year.
Because he was at Louisiana.
Well,
they were great.
Everybody, I think, kind of wrung their hands when they were like, LSU just passed on a guy that basically would have died to take the LSU job, and then they went to Brian Kelly, obviously, and he ends up at Florida. But yeah. Even, I think, was it SEC Mike that we talked to about
Mike,
it?
Definitely started
like, he's going to get fired. I mean, there's no other way to say it. It's crazy.
I mean, I was thinking about this the other day as we get ready for SEC Media Days. What openings do you think there's going to be at these schools? Because I could see Florida, Arkansas. I think South Carolina.
We'll see. I mean, I don't want to give any of our conversation away with Wes Mitchell, but it was basically, I think, the seat will be warm if they don't have some success in Columbia this year.
I just don't think they're going to make a bowl game.
No.
Which would not
Probably
be good.
not. Probably not.
How long has Clark Lee been at Vanderbilt?
I think he's pretty safe just because Vanderbilt is what they are, which is not much.
I'm trying to think who else might have an opening.
Did we say Arkansas?
Yeah, Arkansas, Florida. I think it's Arkansas, Florida, South Carolina, and then I think that might be it.
Now,
what does Mark Stoops do at Kentucky? It seems like he was trying
I think he's on a lifetime.
Yeah, but I don't know. Does he want
to get a bigger job?
Well, does he want to get a bigger job, or does he retire, or like what's his long term?
The interesting thing would be if the wheels get in motion with what SEC Mike had talked about with possibly Lane Kiffin being interested in a Florida job. If that were to come open, all of a sudden, the wheels get in motion, and Ole Miss is all of a sudden open.
Yeah, well, I mean, look, we're kind of sitting around gearing up for next week and what we're going to talk to people about. And obviously, we'll be down there. Oklahoma will go on Tuesday.
Yep.
We'll find a way to podcast next week, regardless of whether we're down there or here. It's obvious. I mean, George put this out there yesterday when it became official, I guess, or earlier in the week, that Jackson Arnold, Danny Stutsman, Billy Bowman will represent Oklahoma. They'll just take Brent Venables. There won't be any other coaches or anything that'll be there. Are some teams taking more than 3, or is everybody taking 3?
Everyone's taking 3.
Okay.
Yep. And I mean, if you're surprised by who they're taking, you're crazy.
Was there surprise?
No, no.
Okay.
Like it's very obvious that they were going to take Billy and Danny on defense, and the way that
we thought that they would take Jackson, but he hasn't been a starter before.
No, but the way Brent talked about him in the spring, I think was a pretty good dead giveaway that it wasn't like Lincoln Riley, who would always try to be very coy about who they were going to take the Big 12 media days and also be like these fake quarterback competitions. Like Kyler Murray not going to, was it 2018 media days, was such a ridiculous thing. Like we all knew.
Well,
he was
and
going
Trevor
to
Knight went when everybody knew Baker Mayfield was going to be the starter.
Yeah, Brent doesn't do that shit, and I think that it was pretty obvious that it was going to be Jackson. And I couldn't even think on offense who else would be. Maybe Sawchuk, but I don't think so.
I mean, honestly, if they were going to take one more offensive guy, I probably would just default and say Jalil Farouk.
Yeah, Farouk. Somebody like that. But even then, it's why would you not take Jackson?
Sure.
Well, it is interesting because usually, this used to be at the end of July. So these guys won't even be done with, I don't believe they'll be done with the summer workout program by the time they get there.
I talked, so which
is even crazier that we do this in the first 2 weeks of July. It's insane to me.
Yeah, but at the same time, the next week, I think, or what week would it be? I believe they're going to start fall camp sometime
I get it.
between July 31st and August 2nd is what I've heard. Sometime in those few days is when they're going to start.
I get it. There's not really any good time to do it. This is probably the best.
And, there was some news yesterday regarding Jeremiah Criddell, the former defensive back for Oklahoma. Didn't really, was a massive signing from a recruiting rankings perspective, but that never really translated to a lot of success on the field. He was at Mississippi State. I don't know, was he?
He went to he medically retired, which maybe it was going to come on for him, but he had to medically retire from football, and then he ended up at South Florida. Went to Mississippi State for a year, and then when they had the turnover with Jeff coming in, I don't know if he didn't retain him. I don't know how that GA stuff works.
Yeah, and we all were out there at summer camps and saw him coaching, and we're like, what the hell?
He was working.
Jeremiah Criddell.
He was working in all of the defensive back drills and stuff over the course of what was that? I guess the month of June for all the camps that they had at Brent Venables.
And so we thought that was kind of interesting. And then word comes out yesterday. I guess he'd put something on his Twitter page about being assistant cornerbacks coach. Somebody else picked up on that and reported it. I called and said, hey, what is his actual position that he's doing? I called some sources. They said, well, he's a graduate assistant. So he's going to be a GA. Now, there are some changes this year, George, that the NCAA, the Rules Committee Council, I can't remember exactly what it goes by, but they have come together and said the analyst on your staff can now coach on the field. We're going to stop pretending like we have to monitor this stuff and it's going on at some places and it's not at others. I want to say that Les Miles got in trouble for that last at Kansas, or there was an investigation, but it was obvious. So everybody's analysts were doing some form of coaching, when they're out at practices. So now it is just I'm trying to think a JP Lossman, he can coach quarterbacks now, during practice. Because he's an analyst, and I'm going to say who is
Kevin Johns is the one that I would keep an eye on. He's the guy that they hired from Duke that was the offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach there.
And the San Diego State special teams coach,
Doug Deacon as well. But Kevin Johns, I think he's going to have a pretty big role. He was an assistant under Luttrell at Indiana for a long time.
Another guy that was out there during camp and working with quarterbacks and stuff like that.
I think he's kind of taken over Seth's role that Seth was in last year, where he's going to be in the quarterback room. Seth will obviously be in there too, but he's going to kind of take over that. I think also kind of take over what Matt Wells was doing, which if you paid attention last year, Matt Wells was the one analyst that was allowed to have a headset, was on the field talking to the quarterbacks, doing all of those things. I think that Kevin Johns is going to have a pretty big role. But yeah, Doug Deacon, being able to talk to guys on the field, coach them up, which, some of that stuff I think was already happening.
Yeah.
I think a lot of teams just broke that rule, but now that you can really do it, there's no I think hesitation or trying to hide it at times.
Here's my prediction on all of this, and it's
also Rufus Alexander.
Yeah, he can.
Xavier
coach.
Brewer. I'm looking at the defensive analysts here. Trent Simpson. All those guys will be able to be kind of coaching up on the field or in the box.
You have my stone cold lock guarantee about these analysts, George?
What's that?
We will never speak to them in the media setting.
Carrie, we haven't even talked to the defensive coordinator.
But here's why I'm saying that. Because now you're going to have these coaches, you're not paying them like your assistants. They're a level underneath. So if Jackson Arnold goes out and has a great year, they're gonna start talking about, who coaches him? It's what's the guy from Duke's name again?
Kevin Johns.
Kevin Johns, he's a up and coming quarterback offensive assistant, and they're gonna so now you're not gonna want the broadcast teams talking about these guys. You're wanting to hide them. You're not wanting to publicize them, so somebody else comes in and tries to hire them more money. Are you watching Royals and Cards?
Yeah.
Oh, damn it!
What?
I was looking for that earlier. Anyway, you
playing
distracted
a doubleheader
me
today.
So yeah, I think it is going to be an interesting thing from Brent's perspective, because he's not going to want these guys to get pumped up and build these great reputations, so people will come in and try and steal them.
Yeah,
I just think that's going to be interesting.
That's going to happen. You're living in a not reality if people don't think that's going to happen.
It's absolutely going to happen. Yeah. I'm just saying the coaches are going to be weird about it.
Well, coaches are weird about everything.
Yes, they are.
They're all paranoid.
They're that way about their offensive coordinators that everybody in the world knows.
Yeah,
can call plays or not call plays.
And it's when you talk about these analysts, a lot of them, other than obviously a guy like Rufus Alexander who went to OU, wants to be at OU, does a lot of other things other than being an analyst. A lot of these guys are going to be flipped and go somewhere else. Like Kevin Johns, I'm sure doesn't want to be an offensive analyst at OU more than a year or two.
Yeah.
He's going to want another offensive coordinator job or a low-level head coaching job or something like that.
Sure.
Where you're not, because an analyst, you're just not as involved.
Well, I think the thing it could do positively for coaches that want to be paranoid about everything is you're going to be able to bring in guys that maybe you couldn't, in terms of if they're going to get a chance to build their reputation, maybe you can find a former, quarterback that was an All-American that wants to get into coaching, and you can bring him into your system and see what develops there without having to make him an offensive coordinator.
I mean, I think in a way, the analyst job and those roles have become a transfer portal for coaches. You're going to these bigger programs instead of taking that lower level coordinator position. You can go be an analyst at a big school, and then all of a sudden you pop back up into the radar of some places.
Look at Lane Kiffin. He did
Sure.
it at Alabama.
Yeah.
And
Steve Sarkisian.
Yeah, I mean, Nick Saban was doing this a long time ago before people started really catching on to what it was.
And you can also do things like what Oklahoma's doing with Doug Deacon, which is, he was the special teams coach. He was one of the quote-unquote 10 assistants at San Diego State. He's not that at Oklahoma, but he's probably getting paid as much or more than what he was getting paid at San Diego State.
Sure.
And he's an analyst, and he gets to do the exact same thing that he was doing. They're just giving him the reins on special teams.
Yeah, he just doesn't get his name highlighted in the on-staff or on-field role.
But yeah, now back to Jeremiah Criddell, he can coach. GAs do get to coach during practices, so there's no limitation. That's part of the GA job. They just don't get paid very much money to do that, and they're not. It's considered an entry level job, but everyone would love to have a graduate assistant job because they want to get into coaching because they know it's a stepping stone to something bigger. I want to say Joe John Finley's first job was a graduate assistant at Baylor.
Yeah, I think that's right. Or
maybe he was at Oklahoma and then went to Baylor.
Something in high school for maybe a year.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, he did.
And then he ended up getting the call up. Yeah,
and that was Jeff Levy. Him being friends with him and knowing somebody got him in that position. So, no, but it's gonna be interesting. Hopefully, we'll get to see some practices this fall just to see how much more activity there is with almost double the coaching staff out there coaching people.
And I'm just interested in the team and what they look like and, certain spots, the competition. I mean, offensive line, what the hell that's going to look like. And, that's why I know that.
How odd do you think it's going to get next week with Danny Stutsman?
What do you mean?
At media days.
What do you mean what's going to get odd?
Just Danny just being Danny.
I don't know. Danny's been pretty I think more recently
there probably.
He was so tight-lipped at Big 12 Media Days last year. I remember talking to him and trying to get some stuff out of him, and he just was straight-laced answers. He's definitely grown up in that sense. And I don't know. It'll be good to catch up with those guys, but I'm more interested talking to Brent just because you can always glean a little bit more from him. I think than some of the players, especially Billy and Danny, who have been around the block a few times, and they know exactly how to answer every single question. They know what's going to get asked. They're not going to make a ton of headlines. And I don't think Brent's not going to go out there and say that he's, driven drunk 1,000 times in his life, but he definitely will say something.
I don't think that's exactly what Mike Gundy said, but
Yeah, it was funny. I thought the Gundy stuff was funny.
I thought it was great. It's truly the only redeeming quality from a media day setting.
He owns it every year too.
Yeah.
He owns media day
he finds
no
something.
You can't put a showman in Vegas and not expect a performance for the ages.
I don't expect that from Brent next week, but I do think that there's some things that we haven't got to talk to him about. Whether it's Curtis Lofton being hired as the GM and. Somebody's going to ask him who's stand out in the summer, and it's going to be a 15-minute answer. But, I remember last year there was a couple things he said at Big 12 Media Days that you're like, oh, that's interesting.
There's going to be some dude with a camera that's going to walk around to every SEC player and ask them about OU and Texas joining the league, just hoping that they get some kind of derogatory comment.
Yeah.
And there's going to be plenty of people that ask Greg Sankey all the same questions that he just got asked when he was in Norman last week.
Yeah, I'm on record. I think those people should be shot.
But just slapped. If you just line up someone and just slap them.
It should have been the knee. Should take their foot.
It's open carry in Texas. Is that stand your ground, though?
I have no idea, but they should be shot.
Journalism stand your ground?
Should be shot.
I am excited, though, just because it means that football's almost here and we're actually talking about football. That excites me.
How did this happen? This seems like the shortest offseason ever.
Well, there's a lot that happened. I mean, I feel like in the SEC they try to stay relevant. Throughout.
There's little benchmarks that you got to get through, like the SEC coaches thing down in Destin.
Just the SEC meetings alone, took us out of the doldrums.
Yeah, a little bit.
Just that one little week,
and I think
is all you have to do to make college football more year-round than it has been.
I also think that the way that OU has done, and you guys have covered the camps for a really long time, but the way that they do their camps and how important they are in terms of making that makes June go by so fast because it's they're great. Actually important. There's things going on, and the way that they recruit too, where they basically have their class done, it makes it where there's actual stuff going on in the summer, whereas I think previously there just wasn't anything going on until media days.
Really, if you look at this is inside baseball, but if you look at our web traffic and how many views we have on YouTube and people on the website, May's really been the only down month where it's just it took a major dip.
I think from our perspective too, we get that extra month of sport of somewhat it is from just diamond sports in general.
Yeah.
And obviously with softball and then making the run through mid-June.
That's the one thing. Softball,
helps.
If you're at Oklahoma and you cover sports, softball has become such a monster And when you talk about, page views and stuff like that and YouTube views, like people consume that stuff more than I've ever seen them consume it before.
Yeah. I mean, they are literally, we had a conversation about this the other day at the SEC celebration thing. It's like they are the biggest kind of celebrities of their sport in the college level. It's kind of weird. You don't get that in a lot of sports.
Yeah, I mean, you don't get that in gymnastics, really. I mean, you get the influencers like Livy Dunn, who,
you do to a
by the way,
certain
announced she was
extent.
coming back for another year. And
Yeah, very
I saw where
pleased.
everyone said,
Congratulations.
where was she going to go?
Well, maybe,
I didn't know she had
Pittsburgh.
any eligibility left.
Yeah.
But did she
It'll be interesting to see how that
compete in
affects
any of the
Paul
events when
Skeens.
they won the championship?
I think she did. I can't remember what it was, but she did participate. She was in
I think
the
she's good on the
rotation.
beam or something, or maybe I'm wrong. Floor.
Are you guys buying
Be easy on
the new college football game? Comes out next week.
No, you're going to buy it. Then you're going to bring your console here.
I'm going to go and buy the console.
Okay, good, because I did not want to bring mine here. I want to play for hours at home, and I don't want to have to drive all the way. I don't want to drive all the way to the office.
So now I have to buy
time.
2 to keep up with you. One for my house. Well, I'm never home, so I'll just play it here.
Yeah, just buy one for here.
Because we know that you're never here, so.
Oh, that's bullshit.
Well, I am curious because you'll just sit in the conference room and just
Hang out.
you'll sit in the conference room and just put your head on the table when you're bored. Like, will you come in and if I
That's my nap
put up
time.
a nice lounge area, will you utilize it?
Oh yeah, I'd love a couch.
Or will this be like the arcade games where you declare you're the best at it, and then when someone just royally kills you, you just give up for
I'm
life?
definitely nervous, but NCAA
I have no interest in it.
in what?
The games.
I
Like
don't
the
see
NCAA
I can't
game?
see Eddie as a gamer.
I thought you would like
no,
to
I
play
was really
NCAA.
good, but it's gonna be fun for everybody else. I'm not gonna buy a console for it though.
Yeah, I get that. But this game, even if I'm bad at it, Carrie, I'll keep playing it because I mean I grew up on it. It's my favorite game. I'm obsessed with it. I'm worried though that I'm not going to be good at it to start, especially just because I think it is going to. I've been watching some of the videos and it is a little bit different than the old game, but it looks awesome. Like the graphics on it are incredible. The gameplay looks amazing. I think it's a little bit more complicated than what it used to be, but I'm for that. So I think it's gonna be. I think it's gonna be sweet.
No, I'm
excited.
looking forward to it. I mean, it'll be good just to have in the world. I know how excited everybody is about it. Did you see that Arch Manning got like $60,000 or something?
Yeah, he played everybody. He played everybody by saying he wasn't going to play.
Was there anybody that really didn't think he was going to be in the game?
No.
Exactly.
And
I
he
wouldn't
gets to
be
use
surprised.
his uncles to help him make that money. It's genius, man.
I wouldn't be surprised if this was like the plan from day one that he wasn't going to be in it, and then a couple weeks before it came out, they all of a sudden he's going to be a part of the game.
And by the way, Shedeur Sanders is the highest ranked quarterback in the game. Did I see
Is he?
that today?
I know he's ranked ahead of Beck by one ranking. I think he's ranked the 17th best player. Ollie Gordon was the third highest ranked player in the game.
Did you see that Ollie Gordon is not the
Life changing.
does not have the best odds to win the Heisman in the Big 12?
Who does? Sanders?
I don't think it was Sanders. Hold on, I'm gonna have to look because it was. Oh, it was the quarterback at Kansas State.
Avery Johnson?
Yeah, Avery Johnson had the highest odds.
Okay, he's not going to win the Heisman, so. The player ranking stuff,
Mm-hmm.
I literally, it doesn't even move me in any way.
That's because you don't play the game.
I do play the game.
Eddie, you're being negative today.
I'm not being
I don't
negative.
like your attitude.
I'm not being negative. I don't think that like
This is what happens. You're talking about something that he's not interested in. He
I
checks out.
have zero interest in player rankings or who should have been ranked what. It's a video game.
I do think people that are like, I saw some OU fans are like, this is blatant disrespect. I'm like, who else would you have ranked in the top 100? Maybe Deion Burks, but probably not. And like some people were mad at their Stutsman being 52nd. I mean, Bowman 94th. Like I'm like, whatever.
What does getting angry about that do?
I don't know.
I don't think that it's like anything. It doesn't even register with me. I'm not going to look at the rankings, so I guess I can't speak on it.
Looks like Jalen Daniels is also ready to head.
Kansas had 3 guys in the top 100.
I'm just talking about the Heisman odds.
Oh.
But yeah, Dylan Gabriel
is
Daniels. The favorite right now, according to
which is
several
crazy.
websites. Well, he's on a good team.
Yeah, no, but it's not that it's crazy that he could win it. It's just like it's so funny looking back at the narrative last year that we were probably talking about is like, well, if Dylan's not good in the first few games, Jackson's going to be the guy. Like it's insane that he's now like the odds-on Heisman favorite.
Well, we were talking about this the other day, and people were saying, "Oh, well, the Big 12 has so many great quarterbacks." Like, college football is designed now for everyone to have a great quarterback. Like, if you don't have a I don't know, great's the right word, but a really good quarterback, like every team should have a really good quarterback because everybody is slotted into somewhere.
Wait, what are you saying? That every team in college football should have a really good quarterback?
Yes, because there are in a major conference. What I'm saying.
I don't think so. I don't think there's enough good quarterbacks to go around. I think quarterback play is harder than it's ever been.
Well, I'm not saying. Well, look, Will Howard. I don't know if he's a good quarterback, but he's got tremendous Heisman odds. I'm sitting here looking at like Jackson Dart. He's a really good quarterback. Jalen Milroe's a really good quarterback. I wouldn't say
he's really good. I think he's above average to good.
But most of these guys are well-known, guys that have thrown for a lot of yards and played well at times. Like Riley Leonard. He's a good quarterback. It's not what I'm saying is I don't think it's a selling point to say, well, that conference has a lot of good quarterbacks because every conference has a lot of good quarterbacks.
I'd agree with that.
Yeah. But I just don't think that there's also just a lot of bad quarterback play across the country too.
But I mean, like DJ Uiagalelei or whatever his name is, like he's not good enough to keep a job somewhere, and then he gets to go somewhere else and try and get that job. And if that doesn't work, he goes somewhere else to try and get that job. But he
was really good last year at Oregon State.
Yeah, he was good. But now he's at where?
Florida State.
Florida State, yeah.
I think he's going to be really good at Florida State.
So, I mean, look. I think everybody, like I said, my main point was that it's not a selling point of a conference if you can say they have a lot of good quarterbacks, because everybody does. Big Ten does. SEC does. I'm sure ACC. I mean, I just mentioned Riley Leonard.
Who's going to be Michigan's quarterback?
I don't know.
I think it's a transfer.
And is Will Howard for sure Ohio State's?
Yes. I believe so, yeah.
I know they have a really young guy that they like too, don't they?
Mm-hmm.
And Nussmeier's at LSU, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he'll be in Dallas next week.
Well, didn't Cam Ward go to Florida State too, though?
No, he's at Miami.
In Miami, that's right. Yeah, he pulled the I'm going pro, and then he took all the money. No, it's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be nonstop from here on out. As we said, we'll have a lot of SEC previews coming. We have a fantastic family business that's going to be posting tonight. The guys talked to Gerald McCoy last night. Of course, he's fantastic. I mean, anytime you're going to talk to Gerald McCoy, it's going to be, he's going to say something amazing, and he did that in spades last night. So, looking forward to everybody being able to listen to that. And just keep checking back in with us on YouTube. Keep checking back in, on the podcast page. We'll still be cranking them out as Big 12. God damn it! SEC Media Days takes place next week, and then we'll find out Media Day sometime, hopefully in August. Early August, because practice is expected to start. Right there at the beginning of August, maybe the end of July. I think did you kind of hear something on that?
Summer camp or fall camp?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's going to start somewhere between July 31st and August 2nd is what I've heard. Also, for people that want to watch SEC Media Days, I believe Brent Venables will be talking Tuesday around 12:50. That'll be his press conference time, and I'm pretty sure you can watch that on the SEC network.
I'm trying to remember. Did the coaches went up with on the dais with Dari and?
Yeah, he'll make his rounds. I don't have the schedule in front of me, but he'll make his rounds on like all the shows, all that stuff. But his like press conference where he meets with the media for I think about 30 minutes is I want to say 12:50 on Tuesday.
Also looking forward to seeing if there's any special moments between Mr. Eddie Radosevich and Paul Feinbaum. See if that relationship can continue to bloom. All right, Eddie's not into it today. That's going to do it for us.
Sure, yeah, I don't know.
That's going to do it. We'll be back again next week for another edition of the Unofficial 40 Podcast right here on Soonerscoop.com.